Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be sewing Simplicity Pattern 1072 View B. It's a really quick and easy skirt pattern with an elastic waistband. I do recommend it to beginners because it only has 3 pattern pieces to cut out, the front, the back, and the waistband, and it sews up really quick. If you want to see more photos of it, I do invite you to head over to the blog at BrittanyJJones.com. You can read a whole blog post about it as well as see more photos. I hope that you will like, comment, and subscribe below, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is cut your pattern pieces out. I already have my pattern pieces cut out, and as you can see, I have the front of my skirt facing up, the pattern piece is facing up and it's on a fold. So now I'm going to cut my fabric out, and I'm just pinning and smoothing out the pattern on the fabric to make sure I'm good to go. And once I am, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I am not the best cutter at all, so I definitely have to go slow and take my time with it. Once the pattern piece is cut out, I always check for notches to make sure that I notch them and dot where indicated, because it's very important. You need those notches in your dots. So this is the back part of the pattern. The skirt, it is facing down. It's kind of hard to see, but the pattern is facing down. It's on a fold as well. And I'm just pinning and cutting just like I did the first part of the skirt. And then once I have it all cut out, I'm going to notch it as well and check for dots. Make sure you check before you rip those pins out, or else you're going to have to lay your pattern piece back down and then notch and mark again. This part is the waistband of your skirt, and I'm just cutting that out, and I'm going to check for the notches and dots as well. The waistband does have a couple of notches on it, so make sure that you clip all of them. And also it has dots that need to be marked. The dots are very important. Again, these dots on the waistband tell you where you're going to have to start and stop your stitches so that you can leave a hole so your elastic can get fed through later. So once you're all done, take your pins out and we're ready to get sewing. So right now, the first step with sewing is to sew the side seams down. And I'm just going to be showing one of the side seams in this video. It's always good to start at the notches pinning instead of at the bottom of your hem at the top of your skirt, because you never know if you cut truly even as you want it to. So it's always good to start at your notches. And once you have it all pinned, ready to go ahead and put it on a 5/8 seam allowance and sew your stitch down. You can choose to do, to finish up your ends, you can zigzag stitch. You can overlock seam, which is serge, which is what I'm going to do, or you can use pick and shears. If you do not have a serger or don't know how to zigzag stitch, I have a video where I showed you how to do a double stitch. And so that's all. You can watch that video. You can either do, like I said, a zigzag or a serge. If you don't have that, you can grab some pick and shears to do the same exact thing to finish off your end. So whatever you prefer, grab that and go ahead and finish off your seam like I'm doing right here. And once you have that done, do that for the other side seam of your skirt. Next up, we're going to move right along to doing the waistband. And I told you those dots were important because right here, you're going to start and stop on the end. Make sure you backstitch, and you're going to sew up to one of those dots, and then you're going to backstitch there. Lift it up, clip your threads, and then you're going to go to the second dot, and you're going to start there, back stitch, and then go to the end, other end of the waistband like I'm showing you here. This creates a little hole in your waistband that you will need later to put your elastic through in your skirt. Make sure you back stitch at the ends and clip your threads, and then move on to the other side of the waistband. The other side of the waistband doesn't have dots on it, so all you need to do is just match up your notches. Once you have your notches matched up, then just go ahead and do a 5/8 seam allowance stitch on it and back stitch at the ends as well. Now for me, when I am trying to put my elastic through my waistband, I always get caught on the seam allowance. But if you would just press your seam allowance open and then do a basting stitch on the seam allowance, then that will keep it down. So when you're putting your elastic through, it won't get caught. So right now I'm just putting a basting stitch in my seam allowance. And if you don't know what a basting stitch is, the basting stitch is the longest stitch on your sewing machine. I went over basting stitches in my pattern glossary stitching video, so you can go ahead and check that out if you don't know what a basting stitch is. And once you are done with your waistband, all you have to do is fold the wrong sides together. So your right side will be out, and you want to give it a really good press to prep it to go ahead and go on your skirt. Okay, so once you're all ready with that, go ahead and turn your skirt right side out. And we're going to match up these notches that we clipped into our skirt. That's why it's always important to notch, because they match things up for you really easy. Once you have them matched up, you can go ahead and start pinning. It's always good to pin at your notches first and then move to your side seam second, and then fill in the gaps with as many pins as you need. I personally like to use a lot of pins because I just can't tell you enough how many times I've attached a waistband, especially in maxi skirts, and I've missed that middle layer of fabric. So when I think I'm done, I flip it up and I have a tiny hole. So use as many pins as you want. That's what they're made for. There's no shame in using a lot of pins. I use them. And once you are all done pinning and ready to sew, I'm going to start at one of my side seams. I'm going to start at a 5/8 seam allowance. And I'm just going to stitch around the whole waistband, attaching it. I'm going to start slow at the seam allowance because it's kind of bulky right there with all the seams. So just take your time. You don't want to mess your needle up. And also make sure that you take your pins out, because you don't want to sew over them with your needle. That could damage your needle as well. Make sure that you back stitch at the beginning and end of your seam and just sew all the way around your waistband. Now, once you are all done, I am going to choose to again clean up my ends and edges, finish my edges, with my serger. Like I said before, you can use a zigzag stitch. You can use a serger if you have one. If not, grab some picking shears and go ahead and finish off your edge. Okay, so once you are finished with your edge, then we're almost done with our skirt. Not quite though. We have to install the elastic. So that's what we're going to do right now. You're going to grab pattern piece number 4, which is your elastic guide. Now, the elastic guide is just a guide for you to lay your elastic on to measure out how much that you need. Once you have it cut and ready to go, grab just a regular safety pin. Pin it on one end of the elastic, close it up, and then put it through the hole in the opening on the waistband that we created and just guide it through. Make sure that you don't lose the other end of your elastic. Make sure you always have eyes on it. Even when you get to the end, it's always good to kind of put a pin in it if you still have a long ways to go. I had enough elastic to go around without having to pin the other end down. And when you do have it ready to go, it's always good to lap it over like I just showed you. You don't want to just put it together and then sew it. Lapping it over will keep your elastic flat. And I'm just going to put a couple of zigzag stitches in it. I'm stitching up and then I'm back stitching to make sure that the elastic is nice and secure. Once it is, go ahead and pull it through the rest of the waistband hole. Next, all we have to do is now slip stitch that elastic opening closed. For slip stitching, you're going to need a needle and some thread. And the idea is pretty much to grab just small pieces of the fabric from one end and then take it to the other side. I'm trying to start on the right side because sometimes it takes a little bit to make sure you're just only getting a small piece of it. You don't want to grab too much of it. So once you have a small piece, pull it through and then go to the other side. And you just go back and forth, closing the hole up. Once you have it all done, when you get to the end, put a couple knots in it to seal off your seam. You don't want to open it up later. And when you're done, you have a really nice closed opening. Last step of this skirt is to hem it. I decided that my hem was pretty much where I wanted it to be already. So I said, let me just go ahead and finish off my edges of the hem. And then I'm just going to fold it up a little bit instead of doing the recommended hem that the pattern says to do. That's the beauty about sewing. You can customize and change things to fit and look the way you want. So your hem is, you can either do it the way the pattern says to do it, or like me, I'm adjusting it because that's where I want my length to be. And I'm just doing a narrow zigzag stitch right on the edge of it. And that is how it is looking on the other side. So you go ahead and hem yours all the way, give it a good press, and then you're ready to go. Thanks for watching the video. I do hope it helped. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next video. Blessings, everyone. Bye.